But yeah, like the altitude here is also kind of kicking our ass a little. It's like
Oh, I'm looking
not
at it's
used
Yeah,
to
like
it.
7,000 feet or
yeah, I
something.
just looked it up and I was like,
Yeah,
I sometimes have trouble in Denver because it's high. When my
yeah,
mom was living there full time, I'd get my ass kicked like to go for like Thanksgiving or Christmas. Like some years I would just be
yeah,
Yeah.
like laid out. So then I'm looking it up because I've been feeling weird. And then I was like, oh, it's definitely like I have like insomnia at night. Like I can't quite fall asleep. And we were talking about
yeah,
how it's probably like panic from your body being like, not enough
yeah,
oxygen, not enough, you can't
yeah.
relax. Because it's just, I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't know what's going on. My mind is not really racing, but I feel like sort of like I'm being hunted when I'm laying down.
It's fine. It's
Hmm.
a day in the life.
Yeah, it's interesting. I actually had when I went to Peru, I had that same thing the first night. I just had like Spanish fever dreams, like the
Yeah.
Mm.
whole night. I was just like in the bed constantly having dreams in Spanish, like freaking the fuck out, like at
Yeah,
14 feet for for like all night. I woke up the next morning. I'm like, I did not sleep, but I'm ready to go.
yeah.
Yeah, get me out of here.
That's like
Peru
a
is
crazy
super
out.
high.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It just depends where you go. I was in a mountain town as well, where
Mm.
my family has a cafe. So
Mm.
it was just me and my sister staying at the cafe and then
Oh,
going on
that's
hikes
cool.
and stuff.
I want to
Really
visit your
cool.
family's cafe in Peru.
It's great.
Sounds
They
very
have
fun.
good internet too.
There you
Wow.
go.
Buzzard road trip.
Yeah,
Yes.
you got to spend 8 hours on a bus to get there, but it's
What's the
wonderful.
town called? I'll look it up on my love of maps journey.
Juarez,
How do you spell it?
Huaraz. I think spelling things out loud is
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah, I try not to do it.
Oh, it looks
It's safer
beautiful.
that way.
Maybe it's a little less. I guess it's 10,000 feet in the city, but it goes to 14,000 feet in the
That's
mountains.
crazy.
That is
Yeah,
a lot.
I
Yeah.
guess like I was researching it like because I was curious. I was like, what is altitude sickness? And they said something about like once you get past like 9,200 feet or some like thing there, like the odds of like people feeling sick, it just skyrockets. Like almost
Yeah,
everyone feels something from it.
Yep.
yeah.
Mexico
Oh,
City was at like 7,000 feet and felt it.
Yeah,
Yep.
Like that first week, I was like, why? I was like, I remember like working out. And I'm just like, why?
What's going on?
What
Yeah.
happened? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, like 2 days later, I'm like, oh, the
Oh.
elevation.
yeah.
But it's funny how
oh,
those things always like don't happen at the exact same moment.
I
No,
didn't realize Mexico City was so high in elevation.
Me
Yeah.
neither. It's
It's
funny
way
because like sometimes like I've been to Mexico City and it didn't like I didn't even think about it. So
yeah.
sometimes like the first few days here, the only thing was the sleep stuff, and then after like since then I'm like feeling other things. But yeah, like makes no sense.
Hmm. Hopefully it'll pass,
It'll
or we'll
pass.
just,
It's fine.
or
Or
we'll
we'll
leave.
leave.
Yeah,
And we're gonna next place we go, we're gonna be so oxygen high, just fucking running through walls because our lungs are so happy.
that sounds great.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're getting your own like little Olympic training in.
effectively,
Mhm.
yeah. Yeah, that's another thing that they had the Olympics here. So like there's all this crazy infrastructure. It's
Yeah.
like,
It was in Park City.
yeah,
Yeah.
Oh,
like yeah, so there's like the bobsled thing on the side of the mountain and then like all of the athletes villages stuff and then like yeah, the like Main Street area. We walked up there. Um, it's all of these like little quaint houses that have been there since the 1800s, and they have ribbons on the front because they have an award system for like keeping it whatever like pristine. Uh, it's like I mean it doesn't make any sense. It's out of a slice of some place that like I don't understand what it would be like to live in a place like this. Like and be a part of something that's this like put together. It's wild.
They have summer
interesting.
bobsled.
Yeah,
Summer bobsled.
just put a
Yeah, for the
bobsled
summer
on some
season,
rollerblades.
the bobsleds are modified to roll on the track's concrete
There you go.
surface.
It
I
sounds kind of
think,
fun
yeah,
That
Yeah,
expect
sounds
to
really
reach
fun.
speeds exceeding 60 miles an hour.
and a little dangerous.
Exciting.
That's why it's
$80.
exciting.
It's like a
$80 for
it's like a
for
theme
like
park.
That's like a theme park ride. It's like wow.
$80 for one time through. Isn't it
I
like
don't
2
know.
minutes?
It's like under a minute. It's the most expensive $80 you could spend. They're
I
expensive.
had good value for money there.
$1 a second, roughly.
$1 per second. Yeah.
Yeah, so Kristen found this trail that's like because there's a bunch of cool trails like by the ski slopes and stuff. Um, and but like to get there, all of the housing around the base of the mountain is like just fancy as hell, right? And so there's just no parking signs for like a mile leading up to the mountain, and there's nobody
Literally a
here.
mile.
It makes no sense. Anyways, we parked at a golf course and had to walk in, but yeah, so there's weird like rich people boundary conditions that don't make any sense here. So yeah, but the hike was like staggeringly nice. It's like
Yeah.
the prettiest thing you've seen, and it's all perfectly maintained.
Oh yeah,
But
I
it's
took
still there's still
pictures.
nobody out there.
Oh, yeah,
Wow.
send in-
I took pictures
Yeah.
for you, John. I was saying this one's for John because it was
All
just
right.
like trees. I was like,
Yeah,
yeah, I'll send you.
it's nice being in the
That
woods.
Park City was not on my map at all, but now maybe I need to go visit.
Yeah, it's worth checking out. Yeah, it's bonkers.
at the least it seems very, very intriguing.
Yeah,
All the outdoor stuff is like, I think when you said, I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm down to go.
Yeah. Oh, and there's like some of the best hiking or climbing. What do they call it? The Iron Wall between Salt Lake City and here.
they were saying that it's the only climbing between Salt Lake City and here.
But they said
You have
that
to go
there was,
further
like,
afield.
crazy number of
Yeah, the Wasatch Range or whatever has
Wasatch
like
Range.
bonkers climbing, I guess.
Yeah. Yep. I think I have a lot of climbs on there that I want to go and
Yeah.
do. I didn't realize that was like so close.
Yeah, we met a guy who's doing keto right now because he wants to lose 10 pounds so that next season he can climb more aggressively. So that's what we're working with now.
Sure, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Anyhow, been fun.
I decided to, against better judgment, to start writing at like 11 p.m. last night, which when the right environment strikes, you don't really complain.
Yeah, you go for it.
And so I got about 4 hours of sleep.
Ooh.
So coffee is being drunk at copious quantities.
Yeah, your
What were you
physical
writing?
resources are low, so you'll be more vulnerable. Get into the good stuff.
Exactly.
What are you writing?
Yeah.
Just like a set of letters that I've been wanting to write around a while. I think all the conversations here right now with my parents around all the religion and like my upbringing and church, all that
It's all
like
coming out.
is coalescing. Yeah. Like
Cool.
to get it out to something. Don't know how I'll publish or where, but at the very least is being written, and I'm liking this.
That's
Nice.
nice.
Well, Kristen and I are currently having we had a slight meltdown yesterday because we're trying to find a process to write together, and we're so like wildly different in style, and some of us are novices when it comes to any sort of collaborative writing that's not like copywriting or marketing, and so we ran smack into a wall yesterday with that. It's like pretty emotional when this happens because you're like trying to get the thing together and it's not working, and you're just like, fuck. And so on the hike we were working out like something that's closer to like what we're building. Like, you know, John, you'd mentioned before, like using Discord and sort of like doing things piecemeal, and then the idea that you could import that stuff out of Discord into a system later on seems nice. But so yeah, I think we're gonna set up a Discord instance and then just sort of role play it that way with chunks of, you know, like iterative sort of posting together to see if any. Kristen seems to have like an inkling of how you combine this stuff. and then I can post them to Discord. So with our powers combined.
The irony
Nice.
of it all is that we went to the blank canvas model and we're trying to work that way when like the whole thing with Buzzard is that in relational OSs don't do that because it's not fun. So start it with doing like blocks because you get more fodder. You can like sort of let things emerge.
Yeah, because we were using a shared Obsidian instance, and so the shared space feels nice, but there's still no conduits. Like there's no on-ramping at all. It's just a big blank slate with no,
there's no structure. You could build out a structure like similar to like channels that you would in Discord, but then if you want to comment on things, then you have to like sort of leave your own like, you have to sort
style.
of remake that like KP comment. Like why not just use Discord?
So sorry, go ahead.
Discord, I think depends a lot on how you use it, and so I think a bunch of like longer form messages in response to each other can be very readable. It's just that most conversations in Discord are very like Slack like, just a bunch of messages flying back. But I think if those are that's like the main style of a Discord server, I think it'll be quite nice to use that way.
I think it's a hack. Like I think it's got all the multimedia stuff, so we can also toss in. And then we were thinking about like we're at these new places all the time, starting to build like a sort of database of what's happening like as it happens, or as things arise. So more of a shared surface that has some containment, so that it's easier to work with.
It makes a lot of sense. Like you could have a channel that's kind of like where are we, or one per place. Either kind of and the fact that it's a stream means like neither person really feels like the obligation to send it to the other person. You're just sending it to the thing, but they have the way to get it. That's cool. Makes sense.
There are like interface implications here. We'll try it out and see how it goes, but like I can see how like surfacing the sort of chat input for the thing that we're building right now, like because right now we have a button and you push it, but we could bring that a little further and it may affect the streams a little bit differently. So there's something in there, like we were talking about this last time in the design jam thing where like chat as your like frontline interface, like to just it's the most seamless potentially like text-based input to get blocks into the system, and then once they're in the system you move to this more filtering and sifting and but I don't know, there's some pathway there. I don't know, piecing together more of how it could
pathway
work,
between the two, like they're like these like disparate things and finding like a transition that feels smooth between the two, kind of a thing.
Like I think we're trying to solve for, and I mean we're also building the stack that like get blocks in the system, like, and then once you get them there, like what do you do with them and how do you like organize them or whatever. And then what we're playing with now with the queries and stuff like that gives you sort of views. I don't know, it's like just putting like there's a pathway here that's like you've got stuff that's bubbling up and it's not worked necessarily, so how do you get it into the system but know that it's retrievable like by multiple people and then coordinatable or whatever. This is where I'm curious to see the experiment that like the things that Kristen has an instinct that might exist in there, to combine these things and whatever. I have a block there, so pun. So blocks to remove blocks, that's what we're doing. Anyhow, it's an attempt at an experiment to like shorter form stuff, so we'll see.
Sweet.
Yeah. So the graph, are we the graphing? Is that the plan?
I think so.
I believe so.
Cool.
How do we want to do it?
Yeah, who and how?
I can lead or I guess like either I can go for it or Shahruz, maybe you can go for it. I don't know. Whatever feels right.
Would prefer CJ that you do it if
Okay.
you want. Yeah.
Oh, hello. Get off the
What's your
keyboard,
cat's
please.
name?
Orgo.
Oreo?
Orgo. Like
Orgo.
organic chemistry.
Oh, that's right.
He was yeah, had to get it like through the college dorm somehow because they did not allow cats. And
Wow.
speaking about someone, you know,
That's
everyone
good.
is speaking about organic chemistry, so it's really easy to
That's
have the
amazing.
cat.
That's
naming
amazing.
naming camouflage.
Wow. That's brilliant. I love it.
Orgo likes to visit while on
He
Zoom.
does.
Yeah.
He's a pretty needy boy. He likes to just like hang around wherever people are.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's
Reasonable.
nice though.
it is nice. Usually he's like sitting on the chair next to me when I'm doing things, and
Watching.
then every like hour he'll come up and be like, "Hey, pay attention to me." I'm like, okay, I'll pay attention.
Sounds right. Yeah.
He'd fit in well in the hostel. That's the general type here.
That's the general type.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I have no idea what I'm doing with the graph, so I'm gonna need lots of help, Shahruz.
Did anybody watch that video?
No, not yet.
I don't think I had time.
Fine. Yeah.
I generally like let's see.
How long is the video? Was it
About half an hour.
longer? Okay.
30 minutes, yeah.
It's just nice because they go through the full flow.
Would have been prudent.
Let's see.
Would have been.
It's what subgraph? I'm guessing like I'm looking now at your repo for
Yeah.
just trying to understand what's going on.
So I'd open
generally.
up the subgraph, the schema, and then
Schema.
inside the source, maybe just the first one.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess this is just like some general GraphQL schema. Right. I don't totally know how this is relating, but I'm guessing they're taking this and saying like, okay, this is what can be queried effectively.
Queried, and just kind of like essentially what the graph is doing behind the scenes is setting up a Postgres database, like a standard SQL database. So they need a schema to be able to set up what those tables and all those columns and relations look like. So the convenience here is that the graph will just let you write this GraphQL schema document, and then they will automatically kind of scaffold out your Postgres database. So you don't have to like manually set up any SQL.
Great. Okay.
But
And
yeah, this is all okay.
Derived from is like essentially defining that relationship between entities, I guess.
Yes. And a lot of the syntax I'm just pulling straight from the graph docs. I don't have like a great understanding of GraphQL schemas. So a lot of this is just patterns I'm taking from the docs and being like, oh, that works.
Okay. And then this is the subgraph YAML file. So ABI internet camera. Interesting. Is that like the ABI that's at the top level?
Yeah. So basically, what this is doing is this YAML file is basically a config for the whole subgraph. So you feed it like, hey, here's what my contract structure looks like, which is what an ABI is. I think ABI is short for application binary interface or something along those lines. Yes. But what it's doing is basically saying for a contract, here's like JSON representing all the different functionality that it has, and what inputs are expected for each function, what the output format is like. It's kind of like, without including any of the logic, is kind of giving you a shape for what the contract can do. And then
kind
that
of like
ABI
a header file in some way.
Yeah. That ABI file then is what, lets something like Etherscan give you all that functionality that you can just interact with the contract with live without needing like a custom UI. So an ABI is basically just like, it's like an API, but specifically for these contracts, just defining what the structure looks like. So that file becomes useful within like, Solidity world kind of ecosystem stuff, because it lets you just migrate and say like, here's what my contract does, ingest it into this tooling, allow that tooling to do whatever it needs to do without needing to like manually write out like, here's what my contract does. It just gives you an exportable interface for it.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And then they're like effectively the graph is going to be using that interface like themselves as well to like really read events or whatever from the blockchain itself. And I guess that's like what these event handlers would be, is when these events like get triggered in the contract, now it's going to call this function or something like that.
Yep. And that's the main
here.
kind of flow here for the graph, is that within this YAML file, you basically say, hey, here's what my contract ABI is, so that you know what the internals of the contract are. Here's my contract address, which is line 9 up there. So you know where the instance is hosted. And then the event handlers, which are lines 26 through 32, are basically saying, hey, for that contract at that address, anytime this event gets emitted, which is the thing that you can do within Solidity, is just like emit event and then give it some metadata. Anytime an event is emitted, run this function handler, which is then that third file, that third tab that you have open, which is the TypeScript file, which basically includes all the functionality.
Right. So it's once the event is hit, doing something with that. And like something like this event transfer, is this an event that you specifically defined in the Solidity contract itself, or is this like effectively defined as just having a function in the Solidity contract that's public?
No, so the events have to be events. Like there's a specific event type within Solidity. That being said, the transfer event I didn't write myself. That comes native within both the ERC20 and the ERC721. So I'm hooking into the existing event format there.
Got it.
On the other hand, the photo posted, film registered are obviously custom to the internet camera contracts.
Okay.
So you can take advantage of both custom events and events that are already inside, whatever template you're using or whatever contract standard you're using.
What if you needed to add the parameters to one that's already there, or does it just default contain all relevant like fields and parameters?
When you're defining the event within the Solidity, you set like, here's what parameters are going to be included. And then those are required to be included anytime that you call that in Solidity, and then they'll automatically be included in the graph.
Okay.
So they're not optional. Like Solidity will just fail if you don't pass all of those along.
Nice.
And then the graph has a couple other like handler types, which are much less commonly used. So they do allow for like, for every new block posted on the blockchain, even if it had nothing to do with my contract, you can have an event handler run in that case. And, maybe that's useful if you're running some kind of like statistics kind of thing on like, block processing for the overall chain. But there's a lot of different types of things that the graph will allow for. It's just the most common thing, if you're doing something along the lines of what we're doing, is to listen to events that are emitted by your contract and then acting on those.
Okay. Yep. That makes sense. So I guess before like diving into more like the TypeScript, how we're handling these events or the handlers for these events, is there anything like we need to modify directly in this in terms of like our own events? Because I'm imagining like Mint is kind of an event, and as well as updating the URI, both of these seem like events.
Yep.
Maybe burn and other stuff is as well, but
yeah, so that's definitely a step we should take here. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's interesting about both Mint and burn is that they will also inherently include transfer events. Like Mint is a transfer from the 0 address to whichever address is getting it, and then burn is the opposite direction.
Right.
So both of those also give you transfer events, but it's up to you whether, when you're defining your graph, flow, do you want to listen to that transfer event? Do you want to specifically check if it's a Mint or a burn? within your code, or do you just want to set up a separate clean event that, you know, is just purely used for that? Could go either way. It's kind of like a design decision in terms of what's easier to maintain.
It's nice that those are still just the same event type though.
Yeah. I think it's
quite
nice
elegant.
to have that. That's like it seems like a clean interface.
Yeah.
So I guess potentially really the only one we need to handle is this update URI, is adding an event to this. So
yes,
how does that look like?
would,
how do we emit an event?
Maybe look up the Solidity docs for events. There's a couple lines that we need to include. I was going to say, I think for minting, it's also good to pop in a custom event for that, just so that we can listen to that event more cleanly and then create a new, you know, block record at that point.
Okay.
In the sidebar there's an, there you go.
Okay.
Cool. So
Emit.
there's emit, and then up at the top, there's event. So this is basically defining what the format of your event is going to be. So up at the top, you write event, name of the event, and then a list of parameters that are supposed to be included in each one. Now there's an optional kind of modifier within the parameters there on the first couple there that you see, it says indexed. I'm a little lost on where that's actually used. I think there's some kind of like, you know, sure, it makes sense to index a couple things if it seems like you're going to be querying against those. But this native Solidity indexing, I'm not sure where it's actually used within the ecosystem. Like, I don't know any libraries that actually take advantage of that. The graph certainly doesn't, because the graph is indexing everything on its own. So that's one of those things where I'm just kind of like, I don't know where this is actually used.
Okay. Yeah, this note doesn't really clarify it for me either.
No.
They will not be stored themselves. You can search for the values, but it's impossible to retrieve the values. It's very odd. It's very odd. Okay. So I guess we can add a couple of events here. Let's see. Okay, sure. That's also fine. We can call this one one or something. And this one like update. Block update. We want to call this event or something else. Create block.
Yeah, maybe like new block or block create.
Okay, that seems reasonable. And when we mint, I guess we have both of these are actually going to have like pretty similar like types, I imagine. I guess we can do from, what is ID? ID is the ID of the ERC token.
Well, you copy that over from the Solidity example, so we probably need to customize it a little bit.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out what they were even using it for.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're just using some random bytes 32. So I guess it would make sense for us to have an ID, I think, or like token ID. It doesn't matter.
And our type for that
underscored is what?
Yeah, I think that could go either way.
This would be like UN 256, I think.
Yep.
Great. And then this would be like.
Is the convention
my
here?
N is all jacked up.
Is the convention underscored? The variables just aren't being used yet, and they'll drop the underscore when they're used in the event handler, or is that actually just like the convention for all the way through?
I've seen it done both ways, equal number of times. I think the docs maybe just prefer writing it this way, but yeah, I think generally underscore is good for when it's not being used yet. However, the event definition isn't actually running any logic. It would functionally be the exact same if you took out those underscores. because you're not
Mhm.
defining, you're not like referencing them again. You're just passing in parameters later on.
Yeah.
Sorry, can you say that one more time, Shahruz?
Like usually you would want to put an underscore in front of variable names that aren't being used yet. However, the event definition up here, it's not actually like running any logic. And then when you omit the event, you're not like specifying like _2 equals, you're just passing along values into the between the parentheses. So the naming here can really just be whatever. And I've seen it used both with underscores and without.
Okay.
It just comes down to personal preference, I think.
Interesting. Yeah, it seems very reminiscent of like a struct definition to me. It's kind of just like a special type of a struct.
Yeah.
I can't get the answer to that on
I'm
Apple.
sorry, Siri.
I'm sorry to wake you up.
Okay, so for new block, I guess the two is kind of whoever is minting it. Token ID is the token ID that is getting created, and then the URI is the URI for that block. Is there anything else? I think that I can move this away. This can come. Set token URI, message sender, token ID, URI. Seems pretty reasonable.
Mhm.
Okay. And then updating block, I guess, would be from would be nice to have, I suppose. Does it matter?
I don't think it matters, because what happens is once we're inside the graph, there's a lot of information that we can infer from, just looking up that data. So because that from or that to has already been stored, presumably from the new block event, all we need at this point is a token ID to reference which thing that we're updating, and then the URI, because that's the new value that we need to store. So I think like the from or the to address here would just be redundant because it's already associated with the token ID.
Yeah, so that's what I was trying. Oh, it's already associated with the token ID, like someone is owning it. But I guess if we're updating a block, it doesn't necessarily mean that the ownership will change. I guess the ownership could change as well.
It could, but that would happen in the event of a transfer event. It's not going to happen within the update block event, right?
Yes.
Because within that function, we don't have anything that'll transfer it.
Right. And I guess the graph is already going to know when, or I guess when this contract function is called, is the graph able to realize like who called it as well? Like by default? I think, yeah, so I'm thinking like when update is called, it's kind of, we would want to keep track of who updated it, right? For like a history purpose. Otherwise that'll get lost, right? Or am I missing something?
I guess let's look at the update function, because I think you might have a requirement in there that only the owner of that block can update.
I changed that actually.
I see.
So it's anyone who can mint
I see.
the tokens.
In that case, yes. You'll want to store the address in that case, yeah.
Okay.
So I misunderstood what was going on there.
Yeah, so I guess, and this is something that I kind of just did, and I don't think we discussed it at any point. I don't know if it would make more sense to like transfer the token itself and then update it, or just have anyone essentially within our group have permissions to update it, like because we're all in the group.
So what would the transfer event be there? Like, so how would that pattern work if
I really want to draw. It's really hard not having something to draw. So I'm imagining like you're having like one block initially, which is like whoever like authored this block to begin with. And now say I did it and I'm the owner of it. Now, if you go and modify that block, there's two pathways here. One is that you just modify the block directly and I'm still the owner of it, or that you modify the block and you're the new owner of that block.
Yeah, so it's a question of ownership.
Yeah, is there a difference between creator and owner in this scenario? Like somebody who initialized, the initial block, and then ownership is like, because if you have, so in the case where multiple people within like a permission set or whatever can manipulate the block, there's like a shared ownership in that
Yep.
like sort of general sense, right? But I don't know in the
Yep.
technical sense. Yeah.
Is it? Can we walk through like a specific kind of use
Yeah, that
case
would
or
be
like a
good.
story here of
Well, we're
Dave
talking
posted a
about an
block and then
NFT too, right? So this is right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So like, are we getting into fractionalized ownership here versus transferability?
Hmm.
Right.
I don't know how to think about this. Like, I don't. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
In my
think
So
that
mind,
yeah,
the at least the owner field feels like it only applies like in relevance or in relation to all the previous instances as well. So owner of a block really might better be thought of like as every owner uh on the past revisions as well,
yeah.
because we can only put one on there, and we do want to keep track of the, I guess, associated like author of these changes. And I think as time goes on, maybe having the owners swap many times also gives you like a rough idea of like the proportion of edits and where that ownership comes from. But you still have
Hmm.
like every piece of it and every sort of sample recorded.
Can you only?
I wonder if we're partially keeping track of this within our like JSON as well, whether the like essentially like authors changing every time in that regardless. So there is like that level of tracking as well that maybe is not so necessary for the NFT itself. But I think it does kind of raise questions about who owns that particular NFT over time as well. Like I don't,
So is each block considered an NFT?
yes.
So each block is an NFT, and yeah, so we're more talking about the not blockchain, but the chain of blocks that we're creating. Because each time a block is edited, a new one is minted, right? So it's not editing in the sense that like,
No.
or
So,
we,
and I
okay,
guess that is another possibility as well, that we haven't explored. So currently, I think this is what I brought up in my video a while back, is you can update just directly the existing block itself and
yep,
change effectively the contents that are within
yep,
it.
yep.
The other option would be to say like, here's an entirely new block, and now that exists independently, and then its parent would be like the previous block, I suppose.
Yeah,
there seem like my feel is that there are different use cases for those. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what they are, but like because I don't know if there's a felt difference in manipulating blocks this way, right? Like either way, it would be hard to tell until we play with it. But
what's easier
Hmm.
from a technical standpoint, because we could do some, like we could start there, like the path of least resistance, or is it
So
equally?
I think relatively it's equally, and maybe like coming back to where we are now, I think we started to explore more of like the code more in depth in the contract and implications of it. And at least for our initial revisions, probably like just to get ourselves a place where we can do things, it's probably not super relevant to moving forward here. But I
Okay.
think it is a like something that we can play with and consider as we move forward. And maybe as we have the system too, we can think about like, ooh, like the implication of that is not quite right, and we'll be able to modify it through usage as well.
Yep.
yeah,
Because it seems like there will probably be lots of different ways, especially with some level of like permissioning on this stuff. Like, yeah, like you can edit my block or you can't, but we have like a very generic, like basic permission system currently. So
yeah. I mean, we're sticking with the general permission like mentality is everybody within a squad, and how that's agreed upon is
We'll
upstream of
figure it
this,
out. Yep.
uh, has editability on blocks. And so how editing ability relates to ownership, like, it's sort of where we're playing here. Does the squad own all blocks, right? But that ownership is indicated in the ledger effectively by participation, right?
Yep.
So it's not like a corporation where they own your IP outright, and then you are like, I mean, you could do a model this way where you forfeit ownership or whatever, but we're saying that like, so squad is general ownership because it was created in that context, and then their like edits are within that. Yeah, I don't know, like the originator of the block doesn't necessarily own it. It is just putting it into the squad ownership mentality. I don't know if this is getting us too far afield here, but
no, I think we did touch on this maybe around the schema conversation, where it was the author versus like the person who brought it into the system, and keeping a distinction there may be good.
Yeah, I think the squad ownership to me makes a lot of sense, because it's almost like now effectively forming like some level of a DAO around that ownership of what's created within this context. But there is still the lineage of who is doing that in the like IPFS metadata itself.
Yeah.
Which is also important, I think, just long term, because I think if we get into like the reputational tokens and participatory like designed, I don't know what, like organizational stuff, we'll be able to award tokens based on participation. So you get scores of like how involved you are based on how much you're contributing to, and like to certain NFTs, and those NFTs are going to be relevant in different spaces and domains. So we do want to track like how much people are contributing, I think, for those reasons, and potentially also for monetization down the road if we were to sell something. I don't know how granular we get though.
I think all of this stuff would be inside a secondary contract that interacts with this contract. So it's probably something we can come back to once we've thought about it a lot more too.
Yeah, is this kind of, I was kind of imagining this is almost a trusted forwarder idea in some sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Could you explain that?
Trusted forwarder? Is that what you said?
Sure. So I guess more so the pattern here, but within the internet camera stuff, I'm using a pattern that I'm not sure if OpenZeppelin developed it, but they've got an implementation of it. The fact that you can just sign a message within your wallet instead of running that transaction yourself and paying gas for it goes through a pattern called trusted forwarder, where the internet camera contract basically says, hey, there's a contract that I've deployed called trusted forwarder. It exists at this address. And when you get a transaction from that address, trust that it's verified and it's legit.
Got it.
So it's kind of like a pattern for like, hey, I trust this contract to operate within my other contract because I set both of them up, or I've reviewed that other contract and I'm giving it manual permissions now. But it's kind of like, the sort of a permissions pattern for other contracts to have control over other contracts.
Got it.
CJ, was that what you were? That was a pattern that you like connected the dots there, right?
Yeah, that was the pattern that I was thinking of, just because I imagined like if there was like a multi-sig wallet or some way of doing this, there would be a way of like having everything go through that as opposed to the individual accounts. So how specifically that happens with a multi-sig wallet may get more complicated, but I think generally the idea is the same.
Right. Yeah. And a multi-sig wallet is just a contract itself.
Yeah.
So it's exactly the same pattern.
What does a contract look like when it doesn't have this trusted forwarder interface? And what is, I guess, the alternative? What is generally verified and calculated?
So in those cases, it's basically the user that wants to interact with that contract is interacting with that contract directly. So within MetaMask or Rainbow, they're paying a transaction fee. It looks a little bit more like if you've done a standard like ENS registration or sending somebody some Ethereum, where you're paying gas. That's what the default mode is, and that's what things look like without a trusted forwarder setup. And the trusted forwarder setup, at least in what I've been playing around with, makes the most sense on a layer 2, because the trusted forwarder at that point can become the payment mechanism for the gas fees as well. When you're doing that on Ethereum, I have not seen too many people that want to take responsibility for those costs from the platform side of things, because they can be massive. That being said, that underlying pattern can apply to Ethereum. It's just maybe the gas fee aspect of it doesn't make sense on Ethereum.
Right. So I just kind of added the 2 emits, and I want to redeploy this contract. I don't know, Shahruz, maybe if it's possible to deploy directly from this interface, like via terminal. It is. Okay.
Yes.
Can you walk me through this?
Yeah, so I think under scripts, I've got to deploy. Yeah, maybe look at the one under the root directory, because I think you're looking at what
this is test.
Yeah. Okay, so this JavaScript will basically deploy whatever contract you set. Okay. So if you look at lines, I think 30 and onwards, that's basically where the deployment is happening. Now to run this, if you look at the package.json, there should be something in there that calls this. I think it's deploy local. You can add one that's like deploy Rinkeby, and then just set the chain ID to be 4 instead of 1337. And then under the addresses directory, you want to make another JSON file that will hold your addresses here. That is 4.json.
And what does this file look like in terms of this? Is it just public address?
Yeah, so what will happen is when you run the deploy script, it's going to write to this file with the contract address that it gets deployed to. And then what's convenient is, it'll automatically fill itself.
Okay.
What's convenient is that this file can then get imported in like your web code or any other code where you need to reference like, hey, where's the latest version of my contract like hosted? You don't have to manually copy paste that a bunch of times.
Got it. Okay.
There's one extra step here, and you might want to turn off your screen share for a couple seconds while you're doing it.
That's what I figured.
Yeah. So do you see where the .env.1337 is?
Yeah.
So you want to make a copy of that. That's .env.4. And then you've got an RPC endpoint, which is going to be an Infura URL. I can send you over one of mine if that's quicker. And then the private key is just going to be the private key for the address that you're trying to deploy using.
Okay.
So that's where, unless you've got one, account specifically for dev that you're never going to put any valuable assets into, you probably want to not screen share that asset.
Yeah, I will not screen share that part. But there's got to be. I guess I can use this one, right?
Yeah. It's under settings.
Is it just the project ID? I forget the.
No, so it'll be the full endpoint URL.
This guy.
Switch it to Rinkeby if you want to deploy to Rinkeby.
Got it. Cool. And then I will stop this for a second and figure out how I do this.
I'm so terrible. I've been thinking about screen share setup stuff for internet camera, and I've been working on that all week. And I'm so terrified that I'm gonna just show a private key
out
somewhere.
yourself. Yeah. Can you
It's
do
like-
like a second monitor or something like this? Like, is
I've
that?
got a second monitor set up. I'm also thinking that maybe I just need to like, set up a new like user account on my Mac
That's-
and just
that's
the
have that all
safest.
be clean and dev environment. No
Yeah.
real accounts, just kind of demo
Yeah.
mode.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
might even deploy this under a demo one just because I can.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, like this is fine, but
Because
I
I
wonder
think
if
like if
there's-
it's just dev environments, and what's nice is Ethereum wallets, you can just generate hundreds of accounts in seconds. If you're just using dev accounts that are like, I'm never going to actually use this anywhere, it's only within my Chrome instance over here. In
Yeah.
that case, if your private key gets leaked, it's probably okay. If it's just like one
contained.
dev environment and one demo, nobody
Yeah.
can really mess with it that bad. So that being said, it's a slippery slope in terms of like,
Yeah.
you'll get used to having it be on screen, and then one day it'll just be a real
Yeah.
one, and then you're screwed.
yeah.
If our OS makers cooperated with our video streaming applications, then there would be just a little layer in there that's like, if it looks like a private key, do something else with it. Replace it with flower emojis. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
nobody has to worry about this shit.
Have any of you opened up Discord while you've got a like OBS or some other streaming software running?
Mhm.
I think
It's
so.
very slick. They have a streamer mode that it gets enabled automatically. So anytime you're like in your settings, it's just going to be like, hey, there's some private stuff here that you probably don't want to share. And then it gives you a button that's like, actually, please do share this now or disable the streamer mode. But it's
That's
basically like a
smart.
nice safeguard system.
Nice.
Yeah.
Weird.
You just need it more generally as the right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
OS
TOS
line.
layer, like John said. Yeah,
The
that'd be great.
OS layer. Okay, so and I don't need my public key put anywhere.
No. So your public address is also derived from your private
from
key,
the private key.
which is then derived from your seed phrase. So what's interesting
Right.
there is like your seed phrase will deterministically, determine what your address and your private key are.
Right.
Just like, yeah, interesting cryptography.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go look through the actual cryptography and see how this is working. It's kind of insane. Okay, so now I should just be able to do yarn deploy, and that should be it.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, well, the name is wrong, but that's fine.
Boom.
Wow.
And then
that's-
in your 4.json,
Fast.
you've got your contract address.
it's greater, but it's totally not. Okay, nice.
Block readers.
This is
output
going
the
from a
ABI as
template.
well?
What was that?
Does this output the ABI as well?
It does, yeah. So if you look at artifact, and then contracts, that
This is
JSON
ABI.
file, yeah, the ABI is from lines 5 through, something
Yeah,
down there.
This whole.
So this is
whole
what the
block.
ABI looks like. It's basically defining an array of functions that are inside your contract.
Right. Cool. So to make sure, I'm gonna stop the screen. MetaMaster close, right? Yeah, there we go. It's fine. Great. So now that we have all of this, we're now emitting events in this new contract. So theoretically, we can start building up our like schema and subgraph based on these events.
Yep.
And I guess we can also kind of start getting into this as well and how this happens. So it's just functions that are taking these events, which I guess are just essentially the data that is contained in the event.
Yep.
And then doing something with it. So probably the URI, you're basically loading the URI, getting the metadata from the IPFS file, and then loading that into some variables that can be queried.
Yep.
This makes lots of sense. Cool. So I guess one question is, do we want to do another like separate repo for our subgraph, or leave it as part of one of our existing repos? Like, do we put this in the contracts repo or just create another new one and say it's like specifically for this kind of thing?
Right now, I would personally recommend setting up a new repo. I
Mhm.
think even with the mono repo setup that I have on an internet camera, I'm running into friction there, so I want to rethink it. So I think like if we can figure out better solutions for mono repo stuff, we should probably we can come back and apply that to kind of both projects.
Okay.
But I wouldn't advise doing what I'm doing on internet camera because I don't like it. So it doesn't work that well.
Well, it's a good experiment.
There you go.
This is not contracts. This is what is this stuff? Subgraph. This is fine. Is it just a generic like node? Get ignore?
Yeah.
And license for now. Just leave all of this blank. Call it good. I know Orgo is he's really anxious about something.
Wants to be part of the fun.
He does want to be part of the fun. So let's see. Close that. And we can take, I kind of just want to look at the general structure. I don't know if you also had a template for this that I should have copied, but
I don't. So I think the graph has their own like code generator kind of thing.
Okay. I guess for
Go
now
to the-
though, I will just do this manually. So, a few directories.
I think it might be quicker to go through the graph zone kind of initializing.
really?
Yeah. Wait,
Is
like
it-
I've never done it manually because it's so easy to get wrong.
Okay. Just somewhere in the docs.
I think if you go to, yeah, deploy a subgraph to the legacy explorer.
Okay.
And then hit the legacy explorer link that's like right there. And then do sign up with GitHub. I would grant it there.
Okay, this one just doesn't matter. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think
shit.
you need to do that yet.
Shit. Okay, it just doesn't care. Okay.
Cool. And then now I think you should have like a new button somewhere. It might be under your account. Yeah, hit dashboard under your avatar. And then add subgraph. There we go.
Subgraph name is honeycombs. Title case. Okay. Relational OS. What does this do? Allows us to query blocks. Queries blocks. And I guess I can point it directly to this.
Sure. I think all this does is set up a link. It doesn't actually affect any functionality.
Okay.
Cool. And then, yeah, I would just hit these buttons and see what they tell you to do.
So totally did all of this in the wrong directory, which is funny. Okay. Okay. GitHub user, subgraph name.
So that would be relational-os/honeycombs based on what you just set up in the previous window.
Yeah. And it probably needs to be capitalized.
I'm not sure. Might work either way, hopefully.
Oh yeah, cat. That I'm not entirely surprised by.
Do you
Maybe-
maybe need to restart that terminal window so that what you just installed is there? Or yeah, you can do that too.
It might really want me to do npm instead. I don't know if I have I don't know if it's like sourcing binaries from Yarn. That's my guess. Okay, well, this thing that I just did went away too, so that's great. Yep, likes that. Is it the whole thing here? It's suggesting.
I think so, yeah.
I'm just gonna leave this on default. Contract address. Okay, and then I give it the path, which, what is this thing called? Will be artifacts, contracts. So, that's about just on. Contract name, hexa.
I was planning to grab the ABI from Etherscan. How did that link get created?
So initially what it does is it tries to get, like you said, the ABI from Etherscan, which is something that you can do. It's called a verifying contract process. We didn't do that during this flow just now. I can go over how that's done, but when it doesn't exist on Etherscan, the fallback is to just point it at an ABI file that you already have. But yeah, usually for like production code, there's a nice step to do, which is verifying the contract on Etherscan, which essentially is just, pasting in the content of your contract into a web form that Etherscan hosts. And then what it does is it'll compile it, it'll cross-reference the bytecode and make sure that they match. And if they match, then Etherscan will say, this contract has been verified, and then it'll give you UI for every contract function. So you can automatically kind of like play around with that contract without needing to write your own interface for it.
Yeah. So it just sticks this ABI to somewhere everybody has access to it instead of needing it locally.
Yeah.
Actually, can we walk through that? How would you do it?
Sure. If you go to Rinkeby Etherscan and check out your contract address. And then you see the contract tab, the second tab in the middle.
This guy? No.
No, like more in the second box. Yeah. So this is like the bytecode. The contract that we just deployed, that big jumble of characters was the bytecode for it, which is the compiled version that somebody could decompile manually and kind of figure out what it's doing.
Right.
But what Etherscan wants you to do is upload the actual contract itself. So they have this web form. This is the kind of long, not very fun process of doing it.
Yeah.
Especially when you're importing stuff from Open Zeppelin, because what they expect you to do is put all of your contract code into one file, But what we have is imports, which are dynamic and they're referencing other files. So there's two ways of doing this. One is you can run what's called the flattener, which will just take all of your imported code and copy it into one file. So all of your stuff is in one file and it becomes easier to paste in the Etherscan. I like not having to do that. There's a command line utility which will handle all of this for you. That will look at your existing code. Yeah. So I think if you search for hard hat Etherscan verify, there's a plugin that you can just pop in. Yeah. So if you run through this process,
okay, I might just do this offline afterwards and add it in.
Cool.
Because at least for the time being, it's not super important. Okay. Also, I noticed, at least within all this, like, I guess now there's subgraph and then honeycombs within it. But I think I should just be able to move all of this up one directory and it should be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Does move already do this? I think it does. Hopefully it's fine. Install your code gen. Deploy. Is this deploy only like once you've basically written the YAML files as well?
Yep.
And everything. Okay. And you can just constantly redeploy.
Yeah, that part's really great. It's not like the blockchain where it's like once you deploy it, it's permanent and immutable. With the graph, you can just be like, nope, I want to update it, and it'll retroactively update stuff too. So if you have like, actually, I want to change my schema, or I want to start storing more data or less data,
Sweet.
it will start back over from like the beginning of your contract being deployed and, you know, re-evaluate all that data.
Oh, sweet.
That's cool.
Okay.
Yeah. At least in the traditional world, that's handled by migrations, and just my goodness, like the idea that you could just regenerate your data from scratch every time and have it all be consistent is just yeah.
It's really nice. You have the log of all the events, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's rebuild.
That is beautiful. And I guess now where do I keep everything? Everything's messed up, but it's fine. Okay. So, oh, interesting. It pulls all the events in.
Yep. This is why it's nice to use that little graph like utility instead of writing it from scratch, because now you can just edit.
It looks like it doesn't have our new events though.
Oh, you know what it might be? I think we forgot to build before deploying your contract. So we might need to deploy it again.
Is it just npm build?
Npm run build, I think. Yeah, so we'll have to deploy it again too.
Okay.
I think we basically just deployed the old version accidentally.
That's
earlier.
And then I guess we run through the same.
Yes.
Same thing.
So I think it'll bark at you. Yeah. So you got to clear out the address JSON first.
Okay. Okay.
And then, sorry, you're gonna have to do the subgraph init again.
Yeah. Is this all the way back? This.
Yeah.
Is it starting here? Oh,
I think just
it has
there,
to do
yeah.
everything. Okay, that's fine. Can I just do dot? Does that work?
I don't know.
Okay. Already exists. effectively contract address. This got repopulated. This path is somewhere. And I guess in the meantime, yeah. Probably fine. Okay. Yeah, now we have our update block and new block here as well.
Awesome. Cool.
Sweet. And I guess we can pretty much remove all the event handlers that we don't actually want, right?
Yep.
Transfer, I guess we can keep. And for these entities, I'm guessing we don't need new block, we just need block. This is something we're going to define in the GraphQL schema.
Yep.
I think for now, that's all we have, right? We only have blocks that we're going to query.
To start, yeah.
To start.
I think down the line, you might, want to introduce the concept of like an owner or a wallet or a user. But
Yeah.
It's good to do this stuff iteratively and like chew off, chew or bite off little parts so we can chew first.
Right. And I think within GraphQL, like even if you had like this one giant table, you can query specific fields like you could normal like SQL as well.
Mhm.
Okay. So this is an example entity, but and now what does our normal schema look like? We do have an ID. This is effectively the token ID. I'm imagining
It can be whatever you define it as, but token ID would make sense. Yeah.
maybe token ID. Count
I
doesn't
think
make
the
sense.
field needs to stay ID for
Oh.
GraphQL.
Oh, okay. I guess I can give this a comment and say this is token ID. Owner, I suppose, is interesting. There's something interesting. So I guess one question I have would be like the history stuff. Do we need to create like another entity that would be like block history, or is this queryable from GraphQL to begin with?
I think it depends on how we write it.
Okay.
Not sure yet.
Okay. For now, I guess this is fine. URI. Something like this. There. What else do we have? Time field.
I think they want you to store that as a big int, and then use like the Unix timestamp for it. I don't think they have a native date time.
Okay.
Type.
String float int boolean ID, just int, I guess.
I think, yeah, maybe I think the graph has a good page on this too, where there might be an example to just pull from in their docs.
Does it say anything in here? This
Maybe
is,
GraphQL API.
queries, sorting, pagination.
Schemas at the end. Yeah. So let me look it up here.
Um,
Oh, it's under create a subgraph in the sidebar. And then defining entities. Yeah.
okay. Sure.
There we go. The built-in
It's
types.
Big int. Okay. And big decimal. Okay. So big int with Unix timestamps is the way to go. Would it be helpful to also be storing it as a string for the purpose of like time zone? Like
I don't think we can extract that information from this process. Because I think what happens is basically the timestamp we're getting direct from the blockchain, which is always going to be based on the Unix timestamp. I don't think the blockchain tells you what time zone the user is posting from.
It's so if I hold on, maybe I can open up this thing. I think within the block itself, I have datetime.
Oh, right, we have it there. In that case, yeah.
Yeah. So I think it might be useful to have both the Unix timestamp as well as the datetime with time zone for basically one for display purposes and the other for just like query purposes.
Yep.
I don't know where anything is. This is big N. I don't know what the explanation point is, but like that's fine.
Exciting.
Daytime. It's very exciting.
It's a big integer.
Daytime. String.
Yeah, good.
That's a string. We have parent. Does it allow like or types? Like you could do like null or.
Yeah, I think so. The exclamation point that you've been putting after the type is basically saying, hey, this is required. Oh. So the omission of it is basically saying it's optional. Okay. If you just do it without the exclamation point.
Great. There's owner, and then I guess there would be bytes is for an address. What? Oh, okay. Bytes. I guess parent would also be bytes then. Or would it be big int for?
I think maybe we want to come back to this one because this is where we start getting into relationships as well. Because you want the parent to be not just like an ID, but rather a reference to another block. So that gets into relationships that might just be good to come right back to.
And just as a quick aside, that would that then be defined as another part of the schema? So instead of just being an address, it would be like saying I'm pointing to this type of schema. Okay, right in this definition. Cool.
Which I think just has like special GraphQL kind of syntax to do that.
Yeah. Yep. Cool.
Okay. Well, I think everything else should be relatively straightforward. I'm assuming like context, if it's empty, we're just going to give it empty string instead of a null value for the time being. And I think everything else is fine, assuming that creator is also an address. So then the question is, how do we define this relationship in GraphQL?
So if you go back to that page that we were just on with the create subgraph docs.
I have too many things open.
Top right, that window, I think. Yeah. I think they should have something in this section about relationships.
Derived from field. Okay. Entity relationships. Because it's kind of a relationship within the entity itself, right?
Yeah. So I think here what they're doing is just they're typing in the name of the entity itself as a field. So like transaction includes a property called transaction receipt, which is of type transaction receipt.
Oh,
I think
wow.
what's interesting here is that we want it to be self-referential. So I think we can just try typing in like parent : block.
And
I don't
does
think
it
I've done a
support arrays?
self-referencing. Does it support arrays? I don't think so. It might. I just haven't done it though.
Or is it like kind of implied? Okay. Something like this.
Would something have more than one parent?
No, it would not have more than one parent. It would be more like you would want to keep referencing backwards from it. I see. How will this complain at us? Is there like some way to lint this?
To what?
To lint this? Or like,
I think, yeah, in VS Code, there might be like a GraphQL extension.
Okay.
There you go. No, your stuff is nicely colored too.
Well, yeah, at least it's syntax highlighted. Hopefully it validation. I guess it seems like it's valid. What if I just do blah? You okay with that? Apparently it's okay with that too, so who knows?
Got it. Is the parent required for each one? Because the first block ever.
It is not.
Yeah. Cool. I think what you could try doing now is yarn build and seeing if it complains about anything.
Okay. That thing.
Seems good.
Okay. Well, that's nice.
Yeah. So now, and this is inside that flow where you have those 3 buttons for like GraphQL commands, but
Yep.
the last one was yarn code gen. So what yarn code gen does, and this is a GraphQL, a function from the graph, it looks at your schema that you've defined and then automatically generates a bunch of TypeScript around it so that now you can define functionality that uses this schema that you just wrote. And it'll do all the autocompletes and the linting and
doing this kind of thing, I guess.
yeah. So that code was just generated for you and now you can start using it.
Sweet. Okay.
If there are subsequent edits to the schema, does that code get overwritten? Is there a good way to manage the
You
collision?
just run yarn code gen again and it'll overwrite.
Nice.
I guess this TypeScript file itself didn't get updated from any of this, but
this one never touches much logic and functionality in here that it never overwrites. Whereas like the schema and the subgraph YAML files are more just like config. So it's
Right.
okay to like, yeah.
But I can pretty much remove most of all of this as well. So, did it not auto-generate something? Or do I need to include it here? Oops,
Auto generate what?
this wasn't included there. Okay. So now we have this event, new block, which okay, for sure. And I guess this new block is just exactly what we had defined in our contract here. So it'll be creator, token ID, and URI.
Yes, I think there's like an event.params, which this data will
Okay.
get put into, because that event that event variable that you're getting passed also includes all this other stuff, like data about the block number that it was on the blockchain, or what the transaction hash was. So the actual parameters of the event get put into event.param so that it can put all that extra data in there too.
Oh, what else is in here? Transaction log index. Okay, block address. Okay, interesting. So probably one thing we want is the URI. How are we actually gonna like create this like index entity? Is it like just creating a, I don't know.
I forget the exact syntax, but it's either like new block or block.new, block.create. It's somewhere in the graph docs, or we can look at this code too.
Photo saves, so new photo, and photo is from the schema. So this should be block. This is not from there. This is going to.
I think it's a separate, yeah.
Form. Oh, it's not photo. Blindly copy. So I guess this would be let new var var ID is a string. ID is a string.
You have to convert the type. I think GraphQL requires that the ID format is a string. So what you can do is take your token ID and just, convert it into a string before it's saved here. Yeah.
Okay. And then from there, like we just edit a bunch of things and then at the end do block.save.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. And at least for me, generally, I like to. Can I open to this? There we go. I really just. Oh wow. Interesting. So everything is like get and set. You can't directly modify the.
No, you can. So you can do like block dot, context equals, and then just set it that way.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. This is. Are these allowed to be async functions? Doesn't matter.
Don't think so.
Okay.
I think everything is synchronous here.
Everything is synchronous. So I guess my question there was, is it possible to, because like handle new block and handle update block are going to be quite similar in a lot of ways. Like they're basically going to be pulling from IPFS the same way. Is there a way we can like modular, like create a function that's get IPFS data or something like this, and then it would be like CID.
Yep, you can definitely do that.
It can return.
I guess we're going to want it to return like context, content, the datetime string.
Ideally, I'd like to import this, but for now. And then this will have like everything that's on IPFS. So date. I guess we'll be.
The datetime number we're going to get from that event.block timestamp or something.
That'll come itself.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So daytimes will be a string. There'll be creator. might be. I need to look at this thing again. Can I just import this type? It's probably much easier. What is this called? Stall. Slash. That's fine. I guess this
I'm really curious if this is going to work.
In what
It'd be
sense?
very cool if it does. Because the TypeScript here is not full JavaScript. It's what is called assembly script. So it's more of a like a constrained version of TypeScript that's optimized for like these very quick kind of limited functionality kind of things that are being done within the graph. That being said, this might totally work, and if it does, it's amazing. It's awesome.
Okay.
That's super convenient. But there's a small chance that it's just like, I don't know what to do with this.
It'll just complain. Okay. Yeah. Hopefully what's in that bridge will be simple enough where it'll be fine. And that it's just a type definition that it should be pulling. Hopefully it'll be okay.
Is assembly script what's keeping async functions from being in here as well?
Partially, yeah. I think the goal from the graph's perspective is for all of this stuff to be as kind of deterministic as possible with something like this, so that any time it's run, there's no issue of failure or like conditionals that might be different when they're run multiple times. It wants it to always have the same output each time. So assembly script gives them a smaller kind of surface area to test that kind of stuff against. But it's nice that you don't have to think too much about it until something breaks, at which point you can just go and clean that up. But otherwise, it's just like writing JavaScript or TypeScript.
I wonder if the better thing to do here is actually just like take in a block and output a block. I don't know if that makes more sense.
Sure.
I'm assuming this is going to work. And then we can say block equals DFS data of event. And actually, we don't even need this to do this correctly. Though it's a lot of assumptions.
Nice that you're sort of only appending and not reconstructing the whole object.
Sure. It seems janky, but like that's fine. So I guess my question here is like, is fetch allowed, or is there you have to go through a different method?
So they've got their own IPFS methods here, which you can either look at the internet camera as a reference or look at the docs.
Oh, beautiful. That's fine.
And line 44.
If it's not null, IPFS.cat. Is this just like something that you need to do to get the metadata in general?
Yes. So yeah, IPFS.cat will go and grab that data from IPFS and spit it out, and then you got to do that JSON.FromBytes to actually do like a JSON parse, so that it's no longer a string and it's now an object that you can touch and get data from.
So in your case on internet camera, why are you slicing this?
Because the first few characters are IPFS : / which are 7 characters. So I'm just taking that off because the method just expects the CID, not the full IPFS URL.
I see.
I
And
forget
think
how you're doing it here.
I'm appending the URL as well, or I'm prepending the IPFS URL, whatever that thing.
Cool.
So I guess we're just gonna do something similar. Slice is not null, bytes.
This syntax is so tedious, but it's just the way that it works here.
Yeah, I could tell this is kind of funny. And I probably should double check the OS block just to make sure we have all of this proper. I guess creator in this case is getting handled, but normally it would not. So I'm actually just gonna do it here. Parent equals. This is isn't it? I'm gonna have to figure out a macro for this eventually. Why does it not like me? What did I do? String is not assignable to bytes. Is it?
Oh yeah, there's like some .2 hex string or something. Maybe not.
What is
How am I doing
bytes?
it in the camera contract? So much of this is just trial and error until something works.
Okay. All that is too.
Yeah, I see there's like a .2 hex thing that I'm calling a few places, which might be what you need here.
Creator address 2 hex.
I guess the IPFS thing doesn't like.
Oh,
because that .get is coming
that
from
makes
IPFS.
kind of sense.
Block that creator.
Because I thought I saw in the documentation. Let's see. Where are the types? Big int. Hashes and addresses. There's got to be a way of doing. Would it just be an integer?
No, because it's definitely a hex value, right? Because your address might have A, B, C, D, E, F in it.
Mm-hmm.
Because all this stuff is deterministic, right? Like it's only ever going to follow one path. There's not really conditionals. If you're already setting the block.creator and block.owner in the new block function, you don't need to redo it from the IPFS. So it might just be a step that we can skip here. It may not be a problem that we have to solve. Because I think, or sorry, you took it out, but earlier you were setting it around like line 40, like block.creator.
Yeah, I did have block. I did have block.creator here. I think the difference is for update block, the creator would have
different value.
Yeah, like who we'd have to, I think, maybe in this event also spit out who the owner, or I guess
right, that would make sense,
who the owner is. I mean, this also is like ambiguous with this owner and this creator, because creator is really implying author,
right?
And maybe it even makes more sense just to rename this for now, though it's gonna want me to regen all this stuff, so whatever. Is it just cogen is what's needed?
Mhm.
Okay. Right. So
Yeah, I think starting here is probably best because the IPFS stuff, if we only use it for the minimal number of stuff and get everything else directly from the block event, I think that's the better way of doing it.
okay.
Because IPFS is just a little bit less, or it's a little bit less
janky.
sturdy than, yeah.
Yeah, I would be curious. It doesn't like the string, but is it possible to convert? Because what is this get image? It's going to return a JSON value. Jeez.
That in the photo, the image is just a string pointing to another IPFS URL.
Not Unicode. I guess I'm struggling to understand this one just a little bit. Just because an integer
Same,
should,
to be honest.
yeah.
You mean why it returns, where it says it returns JSON and then running toString on it actually gets us what we want?
Well, toString would give us like, we like would be storing the string, or like we're getting a string value over the network, or a string value from the JSON itself. And then from the JSON, if we read that string, it is a string, but it's going to be like 0x whatever. And underlying a hexadecimal value is just an integer. So I'm a little bit like, I don't quite understand like whether it's possible to like toString and then like cast this as like
Yeah,
an int.
I just
or
shared a
something.
link in the Discord to a page on the graph stocks that I think covers exactly this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So type conversions here. Basically, if we have a source and a destination, this is telling us what to call.
So our source is technically a JSON string.
What's an address, right? Up at the top.
So that's what I'm confused. None.
Is
Well,
it
'cause
would
I guess it's really coming from JSON as a string, but it is representing an address underlying.
right? Is the .2 hex string available?
It is not. To
Okay.
hex string. I can check.
No. Okay. Interesting.
I was thinking it would be something like a string hexadecimal to bytes. So it's this might work.
Yeah.
Byte array from hex string. So now instead of this whole thing, it's going to be what did it say? This is not messed up. Byte array from hex string. This is going to be oh, likes that. Cool. And I guess I can, that's fine. I can get it written twice, I suppose. So we have owner, ID, author, URI, date time. One of the date times can come from here, right? You mentioned.
Yes.
Date
Or
time.
non-string version.
That is it like block transaction?
I think it's
Where would it
block
be
dot
stored?
something.
Timestamp.
Timestamp. Yep.
And then this would be datetime string, and this could be we have type. I might have done that too many times. This one is going to be instead of type. It's going to be content.
Man, you're great with all these shortcuts. It's like magic.
Yeah, it feels slow sometimes, but sometimes it's great. I'll Vim. I think that is everything except parent. So parent is going to be slightly strange, isn't it? Or is it just going to be, how is parent going to work?
We need an if statement probably. So you might want to be able to do like let, some new variable equal the get parent. And then if the parent exists, then you assign it to the block.
I'm curious how that part I definitely understand. I think I'm curious how, since this is a block type.
Oh, right. Yeah.
How we're going to get a whole new block out. Because I think we're going to have to go look up that parent block ID in the blockchain. I'm assuming, I guess I don't know what the parent is being set.
I think you can reference it by the ID. So like if you do, dot parent equals and then the ID of the parent, I think behind the scenes, it'll know automatically what that means.
Can you walk me through that one more time?
Sure. So if you scroll down a little bit to where you're doing like block.new or new block. Yes. Yeah. So line 57, inside the parameters here, you have the token ID .toString. And what that's doing is it's setting the ID of this block to be, string 0 or string 1 or string 2, string 3, etc.
Oh, I see. So you're saying here, if we do that same thing, it should know that that is also a block entity because of this GraphQL schema. Like it's kind of inferring that that's what it needs to do. So here, if we went and got parent.toString, ideally this would just work itself. But it needs to be wrapped in this conditional that if value to objects get get parent, that should be enough, I imagine.
I think so.
Then set the parent.
I think that should work. Yeah, not 100% sure, but I think that should work.
Okay, great. I think that is mostly it. Handle transfer, I think you can do in a sec. This is mostly the same thing. The only thing is the author does not get set. And this is the owner. The owner doesn't change, but the author changes. This is so messed up. Because the author would really be updater, but the owner of the block we don't have.
Yeah, the owner, I think we can only we're safe if we only ever modify that within the transfer function.
Oh, so if we don't do this, it'll carry over whatever data it had.
Yes and no. So we got to update line 73 to load an existing block instead of creating a new one. But once we do that, then yes.
Okay, so how do we do that? Is there an example of this as well?
Yeah, there should be in the internet camera contract. I think it's like block.load, something like that. .find maybe. Yeah, no, it's .load.
Wallet. So what is wallet?
That's just another entity. So I think you should be able to do let block equals block.load and then the ID of the block.
Not this one.
Yeah.
Block.
I think capital
caps.
block.
Dot. Okay. Author, URI, date time, all of that is fine. And then that also seems fine, I think. Right. I think this all is fine. Handle transfer, I guess the only handle transfer that would exist. No, they're still going to get triggered, huh? The only one is burning, but we don't have burn functionality as it is right now.
Yeah.
So
It will also, if you're looking at like your wallet somewhere and just do a transfer from one account to another, it'll also trigger in that case. We just don't have any like UI or need for that within our flow, but it will get triggered in those events.
yeah, and it seems like it will be important at some point, but maybe we don't have the bits for it yet. Rename this up.
Cool. If you rename it there, you got to rename it in the subgraph.yaml as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. Go.
I think it's the last
Yes.
line.
I guess that would be theoretically everything.
I think so. I think if you run yarn build, we can see if it complains about anything.
Doesn't like it. Requires an explicit cast. What?
Oh, I think what's happening is block.load may return a null in your update block function. So you need to test for that, I think.
Oh, is that right?
I think you can just wrap the lines around like if not block or something, or if block not equals null.
I would like, sorry, if block like this, is this what you're saying?
Yeah, maybe if block not equals null, just to be a little bit more precise with it.
Does it need to be 3? I don't know. These ones.
Either should work. And then just pop those in there. I think that should be
I think
a
that
fix for that.
might be
No, maybe not.
78. Get IPFS data. This is saying that it can return. Is it saying that?
Can you look at?
law?
Or, okay, what it's complaining about is that the get IPFS data function is receiving something that is either block or null. So at least within the update block function, we've tested if it's null. I wonder if the new block might have the same thing.
Can I just do this as well? This work?
I don't think so. One sec.
Yeah, because it's still having the problem on line 80, I guess. It's not seeing the problem above. I think it does have to do with this block.load event.
Yeah.
Is there another way that they want us to?
I mean, you could just cast it
this?
the way that they're recommending. So if you do block as capital B block, that might fix it.
That works. It's so silly. Wow. Okay, for sure. No worries. I guess this one is similar, where it's going to want this byte array as bytes.
I wonder if that's a valid cast there, though. Like, is there a .2 bytes potentially? I wonder if it actually needs to convert something internally.
We can check.
To hex string.
To hex string.
That's what we were looking for before, yeah.
No, but then that is going to return a string, and it's not going to like that.
Bytes array to bytes. I guess let's give this a shot. Yeah, see what it does.
It does compile, but that does not
All right.
guarantee it'll work.
Let's see what happens. It might give us a fun surprise.
Okay, so now what? I guess we go back to this thing, whatever this thing is.
Yes.
Okay, you're on CodeGen. Okay, fine. Hosted service access token. Great. Well, I guess everyone knows the access token now.
It's right there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, these things are tricky when you record them, aren't they?
You can regenerate that at any time too. So after the call, you can just tweak it. And
Okay.
it only affects the deployed. It shouldn't break anything that you've already deployed.
Okay, for sure. That's good. Slash. Okay.
If you hit that deployed to link that it spit out there. Boom.
Wow.
So
Currently we have no
something I had to
blocks.
learn the hard way, but it'll save us a lot of time right now. So you see up at the top that like the kind of timeline or the progress bar kind of thing.
Yep.
What it's doing is it's looking from the very, very, very beginning of the Ring blockchain and running it from the start. So what you can do is in your subgraph YAML file, right below the contract address, I think you can do block number.
It's like a bookmark where to
And
start.
where this actually got started.
Nice.
This is window. And it tells the block number. It probably doesn't like it like that. And then this would just be the same thing again.
And deploy, yeah. Maybe it's not
Unexpected
block
key.
number. Maybe it's just block. Let me check.
Start block.
Start block.
I guess this is probably the same one, but
Cool, and you can see that
Nice.
progress bar now starts at a much more reasonable place.
nice. So I guess the other thing we can do is try to add a block real fast as a test.
Do you want to hit play on that too, just to kind of make sure it spits out an empty array?
Okay, yeah, that's a good thing to test.
That's our first query.
That's our first query. There we go. And I guess this is going to be Nicombs. Probably I need to change block bridge as well. This is all messed up. Do I have a config somewhere? I think I have to like regenerate something. I have a feeling.
You need the new contract address. Yeah. you do.
Yeah. And I think in the contracts, the ABI, I guess I probably have to on node redo the contracts as well, since the contract got updated for the events.
Yeah.
Unless like we just use a subset of the ABI in this, which I guess would be fine.
I think it's probably okay. Probably helps to be consistent, just so there's one less kind of place that might be
Weird error. Yeah. Okay. There's so many files. They are everywhere. And then I guess in contracts, what is it like npm? I forget what the command is.
like npm publish.
Yeah, npm publish, like it has a flag too, I think, right?
Oh yeah, the access public, but I think you only have to do that the first time.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, it's going to do the build for me as well, so hopefully that'll work out. And I guess probably, oh, I didn't change the version. It's going to compile on me, isn't it? I think I have to do the same thing here. Great. And then finally, in relational OS, wherever it went, somewhere.
There's so much going on.
Yeah, I'm like losing my mind. And then this is, do I have to reinstall? I have no idea. I also on Yarn.
Yeah, I like doing yarn upgrade dash interactive.
Well, this Yarn on honeycombs does not work for me.
Oh, right.
At least on my local environment. So I don't know if just npm
Maybe
install is
it's
enough.
npm outdated, something like that.
What is it?
Outdated, I think. Yeah, so this tells you which things need to get updated. I don't remember what the update function is though.
Okay.
It's just update.
Sure. That's fine. Oh, good thing that's mainnet.
You're about to spend $50 writing.
Yes. Good thing I was also on my test wallet too, not my legit wallet.
Luxury programming. I guess this is a transaction. Is it this? Why is it like this? It says it went through.
Yeah, maybe refresh now, because I think that confirmation just came through right after. Oh,
Am I looking even at the right contract?
maybe not. Can you pull up in the search for that exact transaction hash?
Yeah, so which hash is it in here? Which is the
Down at the
transaction?
bottom, there was like a hash and then a token ID. Go further
this
down.
one?
Yeah.
This one?
No, below that.
Oh,
Yeah. The fact that it says token ID 15 though kind of indicates that it's still.
that is not, it's on the old one still.
Yeah.
For sure. Maybe if I just reinstall. Doesn't like that either.
Is there another reference to that old contract address somewhere? Maybe do like a project-wide search for that contract that you just had open. I think it was a tab that you just closed.
Yeah, I don't know what that hash is. It clearly doesn't like it. This would be the old contract, I guess. Yeah, this is the old contract.
Right. Which we
So
just-
any references to this?
Yeah, so maybe do a project-wide search for that string.
Let's just open this one. What is this? This is a sandbox page.
Yeah, so we want
My-
to look at that.
My guess is it didn't properly update.
Yeah.
Maybe drop node modules and rebuild it fully.
Yes. Block bridge is 3. Block bridge is 2. I will try that. I wonder if I can just do this and it'll like it better.
Just to force like a refresh.
Okay. Lock? What is it? NPM lock? Is there not even a lock?
There's a package lock JSON too.
That's the one. I forgot what it was called. Yeah, well, this is going to take a minute or two.
Wondering if at some point it would be interesting or useful to have like a replit environment almost for all of this, where you kind of just choose, well, I'm going to be like developing a contract and I just need all these components, and it kind of just builds the entire workspace for you. Because yeah, this VS Code thing, like,
Yeah,
a little overwhelming.
It's
I
like
the,
watching you manage a mech.
yeah,
Sorry, go ahead.
I like that. Like most of these projects are still pretty small. It's only like 2 files per project, but it's a lot of projects. They all look the same.
No, what is it not like?
Maybe restart the Next.js server.
One more time.
Sure. Did it not npm install all the way? Maybe
Hey,
it's weird.
do I remove .next too? I don't know
Sure,
what's in
can't
there.
hurt.
Just get rid of it all. It should install a whole stuff. That doesn't feel right. Like that went way too fast. Is it not installing the dev dependencies or something?
It should be. Try running the dev server again. Just to see what happens. Seems better so far. Yeah. No.
It's trying. There we go. Could be. It needs to move. I want to move that thing. Okay. From
Is that contract address?
No.
Oh no. Is it possible that the block bridge package that you have needs to also update its own dependencies, and that's what's causing it?
Yeah, that's probably it.
Okay.
I think you're right. Yeah, it's weird because there's this whole dependency chain, and it really needs to all get taken care of, like on any kind of upgrade to a contract at the base level is to like re-upgrade everything in the right order.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a couple alternative tools for that, which I'll share inside the Discord after.
Okay.
Like, this is what I've been researching for internet camera mono repo, but I think it'll be applicable here too. So we can kind of make that decision together, evaluate what the options are.
Okay. So now I'm just gonna do the same thing.
Another thing that you could do here to help kind of force it is just update the, for now at least, update the version number there. Yeah. So just be the latest.
Yep. Yeah, I guess keeping these things all in the same version would probably be kind of helpful as well.
Right.
And
that's what some of the monorepo tooling should just handle.
Okay.
All the versions in sync.
Yeah. And I guess this would be, it doesn't, should I do it one more time just to make sure?
Sure. I think if you run npm outdated, you can also see if it
yes,
tells you about that one.
yeah, it does. I have no idea what npm update does. Should it like actually update? I guess we'll find out. This package manager stuff is still like pretty crazy to me. This makes no sense. Like npm just like kind of like screws with my mind because I really didn't understand with it.
There's like layers of what's the word, like solidity, not in the like the language sense, but there's like there's different levels of state. You have the specification that you want, then you have like package, that the set of things that is installed, and then the next time you try to rebuild that, it may look different as well. And it's like each one of those like has potential for fun confusion.
Yes.
Did it revert your package.json there? Did you not just change that to a 3 like 30 seconds ago?
Did it really?
Yeah, but it looks like it went back to a 2.
Are you serious? What the heck?
You got a ghost in your computer.
Yeah. Let's see if it does it again. If it does it again, that's going to be really messed up. It just doesn't want this to build anymore. It's over. Maybe this one I need to use yarn for instead of npm, and then it'll be happy.
Gotta mix and match.
What is the difference? Is it just like different maintainers effectively?
Different, I think, underlying kind of strategies for how it installs and how it caches packages and how it manages different, versions of packages internally. Because every single npm package has the potential of importing, a dozen other npm packages, and they might be all different versions. So
right,
it's just kind of different strategies or techniques for handling all that.
Dependency reconciliation.
Yeah.
I guess it probably wants npm build. Maybe this was also a problem.
Both of those should be the same because they're both running whatever the package.json script specifies. So there shouldn't be a functional difference between those.
Okay, well, that's good for sure.
npm outdated? empty now? That'd be a good sign.
Yes. Now I can npm publish this, and hopefully it'll go to the right version.
You need to bump the version up again.
I did bump the version up.
Cool. Sweet.
This time, now I can do it again and do the same thing.
I would try an npm install first before doing the rm.
Okay.
And then npm outdated. Yeah, seems good.
That's fine. Types can be outdated. Maybe this one we'll give it something real. We'll just make the computer think about like what's going on for context. It's just confused.
What is the right contract address here? Like, what are the first couple characters in there?
This is a great question.
Easier to recognize.
So many. A57.
Cool.
The first three. This one.
A related note too.
Aha, we have it.
Nice.
Very cool.
Great. So now, theoretically,
Uh-oh.
failed.
Oh.
What failed?
Find out why.
How does it fail?
Sometimes the logs are good, sometimes they're bad.
Where does it tell you?
There's a thing that you have to call. So the graph maintains its own subgraph for health of any other subgraph.
Is this in the Graph Explorer, I'm guessing?
Yes, but it's very inconvenient. You actually have to run a command line.
Oh.
Which I'm trying to find now.
Yeah, I have a feeling it has something to do with this casting business.
Yes. So I pasted in a command into Discord. You're going to want to change the subgraph name in there, though. Besides that, it should be okay.
Okay.
And then this should tell you what went wrong.
Gosh. Honeycombs. Maybe messed that up. What happened?
Yeah, it's been out of response. Maybe just paste that into your code, VS Code, so you can read it a little bit.
Just because it looks kind of messed up.
Yeah, like copy it into VS Code and then run the JSON format.
Oh my gosh.
If you do a command, I think Command P or Command Shift P,
Yeah.
and then format. Yeah.
Okay. Fatal error. Failed to process. Missing value for non-knowable field datetime string.
Got it. So we should look at the IPFS metadata that was posted and make sure that the datetime.
It's called datetime, not datetime string.
Got it. That might be good.
I think that's probably the issue. Yeah. Oh no, this is fine. Okay, so now look up the hash of the thing.
Yeah, just to make sure that's actually what it's called in IPFS.
Be.
It is called datetime. Is that the first thing that's being stored from IPFS there?
Sorry?
Is that the first kind of thing that we're taking from IPFS within the order of our code inside the assembly script?
Technically, no.
No.
There should be parent and creator as well.
Could you look at the package.json in your subgraph?
And parent, this is strange because even parent could have a null value and we're not handling it here.
Well, that should be okay because it's optional within our schema. So what
Oh,
is complaining about is that we have a non-nullable, just meaning required field of data
got
type.
it. Got it.
I have one guess as to what might be going on. If you compare the in package.json within this project, look at the versions here of the graph. Yeah, graph CLI and graph TS, and then maybe compare those to the internet camera package JSON inside a subgraph. I think recently the graph might have made an update that changed how some of the IPFS stuff worked. So if we use the same versions there, that might be a fix.
Okay. It's looking 20.1 instead of 21.1.
Yeah, so let's try changing that. And then doing yarn install, I guess, because the subgraph used yarn. And then yarn code gen again, yarn build, just to kind of, make sure it's using that version, and then to deploy.
Okay, and then the deploy. Okay.
Hopefully that fixes it. Oh, could be one other thing. So actually, it's more likely this other thing, but this can't hurt either, just to be consistent.
Okay.
In our IPFS node, right now what's happening is that we're storing it onto that machine that you're running locally with that instance. What we also need to do from that code is pin it to the graph's own IPFS node. Because I think what's happening is that the graph is only looking at its local machines and its local instances of IPFS, so you have to pin it on their server too.
Oh, okay.
So that could also be it, but it might be both these things. I guess
So code gen, and then what is I forget the deploy.
let's build it first just to make sure it compiles, and then do a yarn deploy if it compiles. Okay.
Yeah. Deploy, or is it just some other command?
I think
Graph
it's
deploy.
or yeah.
This one.
Right.
Okay. And I guess if we refresh, it's gonna tell us something.
Yeah. So you see where it says current version up at the top right?
Yes.
When you push up a new version, it'll push it onto pending, so that it'll actually try and complete indexing the new version before it swaps over the library.
Okay, so it looks like
it failed for the same reason, presumably. You can run the curl
command
again to see if it's any different.
I guess it doesn't really matter. It's fine. Yeah.
Looks the same.
Looks the same.
So if you go to the internet camera repo and then look at packages IPFS node. And then index. Go down. You see lines 43 through 45 or sorry, 43 to 46. Yeah. I think this is basically what you want to copy into the version that you're hosting.
Okay.
So what this will do is anytime that you post something onto IPFS, it'll make a copy of that JSON on the graph's own IPFS node. Which
just to double check, all you're doing really there is sending a request. They're still managing all the resources and being like, we can't accept this, we can't accept this.
I believe so. I've not had it yet reject anything, but I'm also not ever pushing images or like big data over there, just JSON files. So I think those are small enough, at least in my own usage and in ours, that it shouldn't complain.
Makes sense.
I think this is... And is this requiring anything new? It is. I think that should be it.
I think so. Maybe do like a yarn dev or npm run dev just to kind of make sure it doesn't complain. Oh yeah, that happens when it's if the IPFS node locally shuts down without like a graceful exit, it'll still have a lock on the IPFS stuff. So where it says that a lock exists, you can do rm -rf.
Is it possible that the old one is still running?
It's unlikely because I think it would give you a different error.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think if you do rm and then -rf and then .ipfs, I think it's lock.
Repo.lock?
Yeah, repo.lock. And then, yeah. Resource temporarily unavailable.
Data store lock. Right? This is the same one, right?
Yeah.
Or like slightly different
Oh
one.
yeah, let's try taking that one out too. If not, we can just toss the .ipfs directory too. Yeah, maybe just toss the IPFS directory overall. There we go.
Okay. Actually, does this like properly runs it normally in the background and everything? Huh?
It does, but then when you command C it or control C it, it'll exit the IPFS daemon as well. So it should shut it down.
Okay, so I can just leave this. Okay, well, apparently it really likes this lock business. Had Kristen use. Now it's really unhappy with me. Maybe I need to like wait for it to close the socket or something.
Yeah, give it a shot now, maybe. No,
maybe.
How do you check if there's other ones running? I forget.
It's
Are you looking by process or by port? Like process name versus port?
I think
port may be more helpful here.
There's like it's like NodeMon or Forever is like actually running the thing. So it's like you can like look into the process it's running. I forget which one.
Yeah, I don't remember these commands. I don't think you ran a Forever instance, so I think you ran the NodeMon instance. Because a yarn dev only does NodeMon.
Oh, okay. Oh man.
But NodeMon shouldn't persist anything. That's
yeah.
what we do. NodeMon is basically just node, but then if it detects a file change, it just restarts. All right, seems happy with you now.
No, still not happy. Can't find the port. What is running on that port? John, do you know that one? I can just like kill the process.
No, but the error here is a little different. No, unhandled
error.
Oh, okay, no, it's the same one. Yeah, I don't remember what the command was, but I usually Google it and find it. Trying to remember Unix commands is Netset. That sounds right. Yeah.
Wow, there's a lot of.
Yeah, that grep is probably useful there.
Yeah. Doesn't see anything.
It's 4002, not 4001 or 4000.
Believe.
Do not remember what the port was.
Let's just double check. Oh my goodness. How does the lock exist? I literally just deleted it.
Maybe see if lock.js there is looking for a lock in a different
Okay,
place.
apparently
wait.
now it's happy. Great. I hope this is how I had it running before. I don't remember.
Is that on your local machine or is this on your, oh, your SSH in now here? Okay.
Yeah. I just want to check. Yeah, so I need to run it on the actual one. This is the okay. I forget the real start. Great. Does it give a log? I totally forget.
Yeah, so I think you do for like yarn forever logs 0 being just the, because it's the only the first one.
Lock exists. It really does not. It's really not happy.
Maybe do a yarn forever stop first and then kill the lock.
Oh, I need this.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Stopped. It wants to. Oops, not list two. Stop two.
There we go.
Okay. That's good. Now, and yarn start. What did it say this time?
It's the port error again.
What is taking that port? No, really.
Do you have other node processes running on the server?
I don't believe so. I have a lot of other random web servers running now.
Got it. Okay. Because I mean, one solution would just be kill all node, but if that could break other node processes that you're running.
Not, everything else is Go web servers.
Cool.
Now it's going to complain about something else.
Probably the lock again.
Yeah. Oh no, it's fine.
Sweet.
Okay. Now it should work, right?
Yeah, there might be a step though, because what we posted earlier got posted onto your IPFS, but not to the graph. So we're gonna have to figure out either a way to repost that exact same content again, which is possible, or deploy a fresh contract so that we can avoid whatever
Oh
issue.
no, a fresh contract.
The easier route would be just copying this JSON here and just hitting your upload JSON endpoint again with the exact same content, because it'll have the exact same IPFS hash.
Yeah.
And then by the nature of you running that upload JSON function again, it should copy it to the graph this time.
Okay, so now I have to, I don't know the curl command to do this.
Why would this otherwise require the same or a fresh contract? I'm a little hazy on.
Sure. So basically what we just did is earlier we posted a post or a block onto CJ's IPFS node. It did not get replicated onto the graph. Now, if you were to do a new block, say block number 2, that will go to both places, but the graph will still fail in block number 1 because it doesn't know what to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
So a fresh
Yeah.
contract would just be saying like, hey, forget
Start
about
from
that.
0 again.
Yeah.
Yep. Got it.
I think we are. Yes, that's the Buzzard. Forget.
Is
Okay.
it flash upload JSON?
Yes.
Point?
At gateway.
At gateway.
Okay, that's nice.
Nobody's listening. Let me go back to logs.
Sorry.
Let me go back to
Back
logs.
to logs.
Yeah. Also, is it possible that it was no, the whole server's not listening, right? It wasn't that JSON was
It didn't want
lowercase.
something.
Also,
IPFS HTTP client.create is not a function.
Did I not do it? Is this like a new package or something?
Oh, it might be, yeah, because you did add an import up at the top, right?
Yeah, I did.
Yes. Yep. It's funny, I got a text from Beamer 5 minutes ago that just graph init from example, like a literal copy paste of what we were doing 20 minutes ago.
No way.
that's awesome.
That is awesome. Okay. Kill. Stop.
Stop.
Great.
I think just yarn start.
Yeah.
Got this dance again.
Yes, our favorite.
We definitely need to figure this out because right now what's happening is every time you clear the root.ipfs directory, you might also be clearing out some of the files. So we got to be more precise about deleting the lock once we figure that out.
Yeah.
Deleting the lock should be non-destructive.
Yeah, there's probably like some weird thing happening with what the heck?
Port thing again? No. Lock again.
It really is not happy with this.
What is that? I'm really. It's for file on that in that error. I'm wondering what that file actually is, and is there multiple, or is it a symlink, or is there some weird shit going on there?
The repo lock file?
Is that the only one?
That's the one that I've seen it complain about the most, including today. Okay, maybe try doing a yarn forever stop first, and then deleting
It's
the
not
lock.
running at 0, I think, is the problem.
Got it.
Yeah, there we go.
You're fine. You're just looking at the wrong log. Got it.
Yep. Yeah. I kind of realized those other ones were not going away, and then it was getting all messed up. So now, ideally, there we go.
And hopefully that's the exact same hash.
Let's say, hopefully this is the same hash. Otherwise, if this is not the same hash, we have other problems.
Could you, compare it to that right there? The other tab that you just had open? Like, does that look the same in the URL bar?
Yes.
Great, perfect. So you might need to redeploy the graph thing just so it triggers another You shouldn't have to change anything else,
I have
hopefully.
1,000 of these things up. Which,
There's a very interesting map of like cause and effect here that needs to propagate. Just like across 5 different platforms, I think.
oh yes. Do I have to modify it at all? It says it uploaded, but it's saying 18 minutes here.
Try refreshing again. Sometimes it just takes a sec.
Does the version need to be bumped?
No, you shouldn't have to version it. What should happen is on the left there, the last update, it should say like a few seconds ago. Yeah, maybe do like a yarn build and then deploy it again. It shouldn't be necessary, but
Yeah. I wonder if the IPFS hashes are the same. It just doesn't do anything.
no, it should, because it shouldn't be thinking about the IPFS hash. I think it should be just
Like
triggering,
something
like,
registering on their end. Yeah, it's still 19 minutes ago.
wonder if there's some change that you could make to.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering as well. Can I add like a
or something.
console.log?
Yeah, so they do have, I think it's like log.info.
Yeah.
Like toss one of those in, yeah.
Maybe like block.toString.
Yeah, they've got some syntax for it. So I think what you do is you write a string first as a first parameter. No, so sorry. So the first parameter needs to be like a string, literal. And then what you can do is you can put in curly braces to represent like dynamic variables that should be inserted into the string, and then your second parameter is an array of data to fill those curly braces with.
Oh, I see. So I could do like something like this, and then an array of like
block dot whatever.
Or I guess it could just be an empty array, and it's probably happy with that too.
Yep.
But I guess it would make sense to do the block, so we could just do the block that. Or just does block work? Well, I don't think it's gonna like that.
Yeah, I don't think it will. Like block.id maybe.
Sure. Do I have to rebuild it?
No, I think part of this process builds it for you.
Yeah, it looks like. Oh, come on.
Why would it not?
Oh, there it
Oh,
goes.
there we go. It's a good sign.
Okay, well,
So it does require. I saw in the deploy process right there for the graph, it's uploading things to IPFS and therefore probably dependent, at least on the file hash. So maybe a new thing appearing like actually kicks off something.
Yeah, that must be it.
Shahruz, I don't know, or CJ, like in the NPM sort of world, if you've all come across like Nix and their approach to package dependency and management.
No,
No, I don't think so.
It's like this completely top-down, bottom-up, deterministic like way to freeze projects at the OS level, and everything from the ground up is like essentially specified. And so I don't know how mature the project is, but when I was playing with IPFS like a year ago, my friend and I tried to combine like the pip Python package manager, IPFS, and Nix so that we can get like more consistent deploys. And yeah, I'm curious where things have gone, but it's always felt a little parallel to IPFS because there's these ideas of just once a version is out there, you can always point to it and always trust that it's there. And I'm curious if there might be more overlap between the projects soon.
yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Failed to process trigger.
Still the missing value for non-nullable field datetime string.
Yeah.
What can we do to debug?
Da, da, da. Let me look one more time at this. It's going to pull this. Get datetime to string.
I mean, one simple thing that we could try just to kind of drill down on where the problem is just comment out the datetime field both in the schema and in this code, and just see like, does it still complain? Is it something specific to datetime, or is that just the error that we're saying? I think datetime string, yeah.
Would now be maybe a good time to throw in a log debug block parameters or block params or event out params.
Can I just log out this whole value thing?
I think so.
JSON should be good enough for redeploy. Do we need to build anything?
Should be good.
Cogen?
So.
No, so I think Cogen. Oh yeah, no, the Cogen would be good because you changed your GraphQL schema.
Yep. And then the deploy will take care of the build.
Yeah, John, I think you were right that it looks at the IPFS thing because now it's a few seconds ago pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I do like that they're using IPFS as a dependency because it's like, oh, okay, it's like once that dependency is there, you can just sort of like reason about it without having to actually understand like their implementation of it.
Yeah,
it's just like based on hashes and it's like pinned somewhere, and I'm like, oh, okay, like I like these little puzzle pieces.
Yeah, it's getting the same thing for type, so it's not isolated to datetime.
Seems more like
I was just hitting the first one.
Then,
where does this log get output into?
Theoretically, it should be inside your browser where we were looking at the logs earlier and it didn't show much info. But this has not been super reliable for me.
Oh, I see.
Logging interface generally.
Got it. Okay.
It seems like the problem is that the graph isn't able to find this data on IPFS, or it's not importing it correctly.
Yeah.
Is there anything in your logs on your IPFS server? Like maybe it errored out trying to post it there?
We shouldn't be able to see it on IPFS if that's the case, right?
I wonder in the forever logs if it's complaining about anything like it was earlier.
No,
it's not.
Wait, is there any way to check if it's pinned for the graph?
There might be. I'm not familiar with what that command might be though, to check if it's pinned in one specific node.
Mm-hmm.
This is the
one possibility. Are you sure that it is prefixed with IPFS / in the actual blockchain metadata? Because we're running that slice, and I wonder if
that's a good question. So one way to test this would be what is the Ethereum remix? That's the one. I guess I can try to get the information out of it. has something close enough.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay, so you've got your set base URI here as IPFS://,
yeah,
which to me indicates that in the URI parameter, you're not sending IPFS://. So I think in your subgraph, you don't need the dot slice.
let's see, because the set base URI should be prepending it to the URI itself when you call update or when you call get or whatever the function is.
Right, but you're not calling get from your graph instance, right? You're looking at that URI event parameter directly.
Oh, yeah. Okay,
That's probably it.
That's
Fingers
it.
crossed. That's what the issue is here.
that must be. Yeah, that must be. Well, I guess we can bring this back.
Yep.
It's not happy with me, but that's fine. Yeah, I think that must be the problem. I was assuming that it was coming from the contract itself, but it's not.
Oh, wait, last updated 4 minutes ago.
There you
Oh.
go. And then it'll need to sync just a little bit. Yeah, it doesn't tell you exactly where it is. Like this 100% is quite deceiving because it's not actually 100%.
Yep. No.
Oh no. What this time?
Yeah, hopefully it's something different.
Yeah, hopefully it's something different. And handler. Oh wait. Mapping aborted.
Unknown.
JSON value is not a string.
Oh, this might be complaining about your log that you just put in.
Oh, is that right?
That's what I think. That one I think should be okay because I think
the ID
log
was
ID is definitely going to be a string, or,
Oh.
or you know, outputable as a string.
Gotcha. For now, I'm just going to remove both and hope for the best. Also, I might take this real fast and just where I had it. Oh, it doesn't even tell you really the real line number. That's
Yeah.
kind of unfortunate. Okay.
This is going to be so worth the painful process because once it's set up, it unlocks so much cool stuff.
Yeah.
You don't really have to worry about it too much later on. Oh no.
I have a feeling that it has to do with JSON value to string. Man, this is really unfortunate. The debugging on this is the tooling is not quite there yet, is it?
Yeah. There's something still odd to me about this block.author, like as bytes.
Yeah, I was thinking this as well. This is the same error message, right?
Yeah. So it wasn't necessarily the log earlier.
No.
Let's try commenting out the author stuff and just kind of seeing if we can localize the issue to that.
I also found the IPFS pin list command in Discord. So if you want to run that at some point, just make sure we got that recognized.
Sweet.
I did not need to do that. Whoops. Oh, this one. Wait, how does this command work though? Is this like on the server itself?
Oh, you're right, probably.
I'm assuming so. I think I only have the node package installed, and it's only a deb dependency. Maybe. Is this the same problem that I had before? Probably.
Yeah, I'm trying to install and initialize the IPFS.
I think I should fix it. It's probably something to do with like how files are sourced or something. I didn't like this one either, did it? Where is this? This is what I'm looking for. Yeah, it still says the same line, so it doesn't look like it has to do with that particular thing. I think I deployed it again, I'm pretty sure.
I'm getting a different error now when I do the health check. I get the daytime string can now be null again. I don't know if it's changed.
Are you looking for pending version or are you looking at current version?
Oh, that's definitely why. Right, JSON value is not a string.
You know, I wonder if we can look up.
Oh. So it's specifically saying JSON value dot to string is where it's breaking. So I wonder if dot parent. Can we look at our IPFS metadata again?
No, the problem is this is null. This doesn't exist. Because the parent is not actually in here.
Yeah.
I think that probably was it. I am going to just add this stuff back, assuming it's going to work.
So are you doing the parent thing twice now, at the top and at the bottom? Is there any difference between those?
No. That is funny.
Can we look at the IPFS again, the actual data that we have for this?
Yes.
Block?
I think I have it in Safari. Firefox.
So we got type, we got creator, content, context. So it is just parent that's missing here.
Yeah, I believe so. And that should be handled context type creator.
Yeah, maybe let's try commenting out parent and deploying.
I guess it's now wrapped into if. You think that should be okay?
Possibly, but I think that's what we had earlier as well.
No, it was in two places was the issue. It was at the very top of the code and at the bottom.
I see, got it.
And in the bottom of the code, it was wrapped, and in the top, it was not.
Got it, okay. Yeah, let's give it a shot.
Is there? Oh, okay, no, the error on the author disappeared.
Yeah, it was because the AutoGen code was not there yet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, fingers crossed. This is gonna be the one, right?
Let's hope so.
Well, it says entities too. I don't know what that means, but like.
Good.
Ah, there it is.
Like that.
Oh yeah. Maybe toss in the content and context into the query there, just so we can see that
Yeah.
those being spit out too. Beautiful.
Yep. Nice.
We did it.
We did it. Think.
Good.
Oh, keep you the sync.
Nice
Good
work,
work.
CJ.
Yes.
And Shahruz.
Yeah, it was a collective brain debugging.
Yeah. It was cool.
Yes.
Boom, it's on the live site now too.
Nice. That's great.
That's cool. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, I think this is going to be one to definitely like. There's so much here that's now kind of documented through struggle.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to go back and see like how can you replicate this with less struggle.
Yeah.
At least in these small things, or what are the like errors and stuff that we went along the way, like the node packaging stuff, and it's like okay,
Yeah.
figuring out these flows is very important.
Definitely.
It's also nice that now, like, as we want to add fields or like add other entities and relationships, we can kind of just iterate instead. Like, we've done the hard part
Mhm.
now of getting it working. So now adding in like 1 or 2 fields at a time should be a much quicker.
Yeah, they're gonna be just copy paste and change the name rather than figure out types and stuff.
Right.
Yeah. Sweet.
Got a pipe.
Yep.
We have a pipe. Things are flowing.
Mm-hmm.
Not just a pipe, but a definition for a regeneratable pipe. It's open and
Pipe can
Like-
change itself.
yeah,
Smart pipe.
it's really cool.
Cool.
Sweet.
How do I regen my ID?
Don't remember.
I'll go through it. I'll
There's like an edit button next to honeycombs.
Oh yeah, there's a refresh thing.
I can refresh this. Perfect.
Alright.
Okay, cool. Nice.
The pipe is secure. Smart pipe secure. Sweet.
Yeah, I think that's all I have for today.
Yeah, that's plenty.
Yeah, no, that was gnarly. Yeah, it was fun though.
Definitely.
Sweet. So I guess now it's just writing some GraphQL queries on the front end so things can properly be displayed. Yeah.
It's kind of like a loop. Like we just closed the other
Mm-hmm.
part of the loop.
Yep. Sweet.
Yeah. So what happens next is you basically you tie those queries into the front end. Like, how does that work? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And then depending on, like what kind of queries we want, and if we're getting the results that we want or not, we might need to come back to this GraphQL schema, update things, set up new entities or relationships or things to query against. But again, that process hopefully much quicker now that we've got it set up.
Cool.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah,
out of the box, GraphQL gives you so much, like, sorting, pagination, text search, like we get all sorts of goodies like immediately.
Nice. Is there any setup for the next round we want to do, or like, can I dummy stuff in the I don't know if there's anything on that front, or if we do another one of these guys and just hook up all the, I don't know what you guys think on that front.
Either way, we are going to want a GraphQL library on the Honeycomb site now, and some, nice UX around setting up these queries. So maybe that's a step that we can do, and then it should be easier to dummy in data. Because if you can look at that GraphQL schema, like that request schema, which I'll paste into Discord now. Like if you can understand what's going on here and like the ability to edit it and add fields and stuff, then it should be easy to update from that point. So you can you can do queries and stuff without too much extra work. Nice.
Okay, yeah. So I don't know. I'm out of my depth on what to hit next.
Maybe a sync session next, just so we start like basically tie up all the little loose ends and go all the way through and at least have a consistent map of everything. And then I think from there it'll be easier to like maybe split.
Okay. Yeah.
Smaller tasks.
Yeah, because then we'll have like a toehold on the front end functionality, even if it's scrappy. because that's what happened last time. I was able to like then play with everything that's tied in. Plus, we get to go through the process of seeing the back connect to the front, and all that stuff. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, we're getting close. I mean, it definitely
Yeah.
feels like not like one of those like infinite, like the
No.
end is getting further and further away.
Yeah.
It's like quite the
The
opposite.
tunnel is
Like,
getting longer. Yeah.
yeah, it's this is great. Yeah, maybe next week, what the upcoming week.
Yeah.
Mm. You don't want to shoot for tomorrow or later?
I can do tomorrow.
I can do tomorrow as well.
Works
We've
for me.
got nothing going on except for hanging out at a hostel. So
We could talk a little bit later. We do have something going on, Dave.
oh yeah, never mind.
We could do, well, this is our time. 4 p.m.
Maybe
our
1 hour
time.
head down.
Yeah.
One.
So our normal time,
we're-
I guess we could do
4.
3. We could do 3
Yeah.
Pacific. Yeah.
Would y'all mind pushing back 1 hour to 4 Pacific, 5 your
No.
time?
Works for me.
I have a call at 6:30, but I think that's enough time probably. Otherwise, I can duck out early.
Awesome.
Sweet. Till tomorrow.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Thanks for co-braining. It was fun.
Yes.
Like it's like a pair coding something debugging
Mhm.
TV show. It's fun to watch.
Code
Yeah.
T.
Code
Code
TV.
TV.
Code.tv.
I like
Good.
that.
All right, set it up. You can hook into Beamer's broadcast spectrum. We'll start pushing it out. Code TV.
Yeah.
Good. Thanks, guys.
Alrighty.
Bye.
Bye.
See you tomorrow. Bye.